Hey everybody, it's Joel from the Board Game Mechanics. Today we're taking a look at Guilds of London with, I'm going to call it an expansion right now, but maybe it's really it's not standalone, but man, it fundamentally changes the game. Wards of London. So this is Guilds of London. This is a two-player setup, the most succinct, compact way I could show it. And I actually play this one at two players a fair amount of time. I don't think it shines its best at two players, but it's fine at two players. But for the purposes of explaining the basic game, I'm just going to show a quick two-player setup here. And then we're going to get right into the wards. And wards does radically change this game. So that's why we're going to be really brief here with our guilds explanation and really focus on wards. Because I think there's something nice there in wards for you guys that if you're a fan of this game already, I think you're really going to be happy with wards. And if you maybe had some things you were critical about with this game, wards might address it for you. Because I'll tell you, I won't play this game without the wards expansion probably now. Let's get into setup. In a two-player game, we put the Guildhall London out only. Then everyone puts 4 players of their kind of color on there. And we're gonna build around that. So there's these 4 special tiles that are going to go around in a two-player game. And then we're going to make a 5x5 grid. Then after we make our 5x5 grid, we're going to put these second player tokens down. That's what the second player gets. Finally, we're going to get this guy here. I forget his name, but he's the silver one. And he goes on the lowest numbered tile. And basically, this is a card game now. At this point, it becomes a card game. And we have a hand of cards, and we're going to be playing cards from our hand to do different things. And we essentially are going to get a few different choices for what we want to do. So the thing you're probably going to hear about this game as much as anything is that it's very symbol heavy and that the symbology isn't exactly easy to understand right off the bat. And I would say that's probably a fair criticism. But they do have these nice reference sheets that come with the game. So you get a couple of these reference sheets and they're really going to help you with this. But really, let's just take a look at a couple of the cards here and just get kind of a feel for how these cards are used in this game. So the symbology of these cards really does kind of complicate things and make things a little difficult. But after you play a little, you start to understand what these cards do. So here's a real cursory, rough understanding. Every card has a suit. That suit's required if you're going to play the card one of a few ways that you're going to play. If I wanted to play this card for its suit value, that just simply means that I'm going to move a liveryman, who's one of my influencers in the guild, from the guild hall to this suit. Okay? So that's just going to show that I'm moving one of my liverymen into a suited square there. So the suits on the guild halls, really apparent. Sometimes they have multiple banners, but I'm moving from one spot to another based on that. This right here indicates a cost. So sometimes there's a cost in coins. This one doesn't have that cost. It's basically free to play. However, if I did have to pay some coins, my cards also serve as coins. This reminds me a lot of Bonanza, where the coins imprint is on the backside of the cards as well there. Then I have a special benefit that happens here, okay? So the symbology makes sense once you understand it, but these both do something special, and you only pay the cost if you're doing the special action. So the special action done on this one will be remove one of your liverymen, that slash means not in the guild hall, to take any player, any colors player, liveryman, and put them back into the guild hall. So you're going to take one of your guys completely out of the game that's not in the guild hall, hurting yourself much more actually than the other player, but in certain situations you may need to do this in order to have a greater good happen for you. So I take one of my liverymen off the board into my general supply, effectively undoing some actions I've done, in order to undo an action someone else has done. This game has some mean things like that happen in it sometimes. This up here indicates the rarity of the card. It also has a specific reference number on it. So that's useful sometimes when looking at what cards do, because again, the symbology in this game, not always intuitive. This card shows that you can remove people from the growth area back to the guild hall. However many you do that with, you gain a victory point for. So if I have a bunch of people in the plantation area, the growth area there, I can remove them back and get 1 point apiece on that. So the symbology in this is a little bit tough to wrap your head around. But I think that's a rough understanding of what these cards are going to do. So let's take a look at what this would look like. If I were going to play this down for its value, as a suit, I don't have to pay any cost with it, and it would look something like this. I'm going to assume I'm the green player. I'm moving one of my liverymen into a space that has that suit in it. So right there, I can move one of my guys there. Discard that card. That's what I did. That was my action. If I were to do the other thing, where I could say, let's say that we have a tie going on here, and I have another liveryman over there, I could remove this liveryman from the board in order to put this liveryman back here. That's useful, though, because as we get through the game, we're going to start resolving these tiles once they get to their breaking points and we get to the ends of rounds. So in order to keep my majority, if I really cared about that tile, then that would really help me to get my majority there. Because we're going to, in a two-player game, every other round, and in any other player count, every round, we're going to resolve these tiles. These guilds are going to resolve then whenever we hit this breaking point on a tile. So we would go ahead and resolve these tiles at the end of the rounds that are marked as such in a two-player game, or every round in a more than two-player game. And we're going to resolve them. And what that's going to look like is this. I know I have at least two there. So then we have a negotiation phase, which is where this game gets its reputation for being a little bit mean sometimes. Because I can earn these neutral players, neutral liverymen. And that basically is able to bump someone out of that area. So I could say, you know what? We're going to do this. That guy goes back to you, actually back in the guild hall. So you don't get totally punished for that. But now it's clearly mine. It breaks at 2 still. I have my green liveryman there, and he's gonna go ahead and make that resolve. If I'm a real nasty player and I'm red, I have a chance to do that as well and bump him out as well. So these tiles are going to resolve basically at resolution times, which is at the end of certain rounds or every round, depending on your player count. And what's going to happen is we're going to look at some of the details of this tile. So this one says at 4 liverymen, we're going to resolve this tile. Well, we have our 4 liverymen. But there's a tie happening here. So ties are rough. And I don't want a tie to happen there. So we have this thing called the negotiation phase, where I've earned these neutral liverymen throughout the course of the game, and I'm able to use them now as a way to resolve a tile the way I want it to go. So if I'm the green player and I'm in first place, I get a first chance to go ahead and do this and bump one of their liverymen out. And now guess what? I'm winning that. So this tile is going to resolve now, where I have 2 green there. He has 1 red. I am the one who's going to win the vote when it comes time to resolve. And I get the first player benefit, which is 4 victory points plus the symbology there that's noted. Whereas second player actually might get a little better bonus than me this time. They get 4 victory points, but they also get one of these neutral liverymen. I'm going to go ahead and flip this tile over because it resolved. And my green liveryman becomes a guild master. So that guild master matters for a few reasons. One of the big reasons, though, is when we do have ties that happen later, any orthogonally adjacent guild masters still have some influence on neighboring guilds. So if I had a tie that was orthogonally adjacent to this guild master, he would help me resolve some ties, which are really helpful. They're also going to play an important role in some in-game scoring and things like that. So that's basically how a tile is going to resolve. All right, so here is a succinct, streamlined how a turn would work. I'm going to move this on to the round that we're starting. Then players get a turn. When I get my turn, I'm going to use my hand of cards in order to do one of those things that we talked about, where I can pay the cost, do the special effect of the card, or move someone using the suit. Or a third thing is I can hire a liveryman. By discarding a card, I can add another one of my liverymen to the guild hall. So, option 1, I'm going to drop this one and move someone from my guild hall into one of the specific guilds, helping it be one step closer to resolving. Option 2, I'm going to pay the cost associated on the card. This one requires I discard a card using that coin in order to do the symbol here and get that card's special ability to trigger. Using that reference sheet, we can look up these cards, understand what they do, using these references on the cards. And then we draw either 2 or 4 cards. If I played cards, I'm going to draw 2 cards. If I didn't play any cards this round, I draw 4 cards. Then we move to that end of round phase where we see if any of these tiles resolve in order from top to bottom, left to right. If they do resolve because they hit that breaking point, we resolve them the way I showed you just a second ago. If we have a growth phase, okay, so there's not always a growth phase, but sometimes there's a growth phase depending on the round. We're going to sometimes add some more tiles to the game based on the direction it is from the guild hall and depending on player count. In a 2-player game, we never add more tiles. We're just going to keep the same tiles we have. And then we're also going to resolve some things on this player board over here. As a part of the growth phase, we're going to resolve the plantation tile too. We have a tie here. So on a tie, when it resolves, we would both get the right side of the tile there. So we'd both get 3 victory points after returning the one worker back to us from the tile. However, this, like every other tile that resolves, gets a negotiation phase. So again, we get to do that mean thing of, I really want 7 victory points, not just 3. So I'm going to go ahead and use my neutral there, get those extra victory points. But now I must return 2 of my guys back. He returns back 1, and the neutral comes off. So the other piece too on this is if I had been playing with more than 2 players and someone didn't get a reward from this, their guys stay on there. I don't have to take anybody off. So it's kind of a catch-up mechanism. The other catch-up mechanism in this game is it seems crazy that the person in first place gets to go first. It feels like that's going to be a runaway leader thing. But that's totally not the case at all, because going last is such an advantage in so many ways in this game. So that's a snapshot, not even close to how to play this game, because we didn't get into our mayoral favor cards. We didn't get into a lot of things in this game, but that's a snapshot of how to play Guilds of London. And there's much better how to play videos out there, I'm positive. But now we're going to switch gears and go to Wards, which is such a different game than this. And so now with Wards, our guild hall here is sitting lonely like an island with just some people there that aren't connected to anything, because we have changed the game fundamentally by introducing the idea of wards. With wards, we have these small little cloisters of liverymen and tradesmen that are going to be working in different sectors of the town. And what this really does is it gives me a private ward of my own and a couple of neutral wards where my opponent has his own ward, and he's going to be doing his kind of own thing over there as well. So the interaction in the game is fundamentally changed because I'm only allowed to place in my ward and these neutral wards to my left and my right. And so with this being a 2-player game, this is going to be an initial from the get-go, we're going to be able to do this. And with different player counts, we're going to see the board evolve a little bit, but still, it just really fundamentally changes how player interaction works in this game. And it really impacts the game a huge way. So, obviously, I have my own little thing I can build. I can make my own little almost engine of trying to generate points in my own little ward here and know that I don't have to worry about really any outsiders interfering with my business in my ward. And then I also see opportunities in these other neutral wards, and I'm hoping that I see those opportunities before my opponent does and can take advantage of those. But now I only need to worry about one other opponent. So in a 2-player game, this does change the play because I have my own little private area. But in higher player counts, we're really looking at how now I'm only really worried about the guy on my right and my left, and we're going from there. And Wards doesn't just add this idea of breaking this Pangea of a continent into a bunch of smaller wards. It really has the ideas, too, of introducing coins that we see here. These coins are going to be a replacement for it. Typically, we had to ditch cards to pay for costs. Now we have some basically extra cards that are neutral and can just be used for costs in the form of these coins that are available. And we have this, not today, no neutral liveryman tile that comes out and will say, you know what, we're not gonna mess things up here. We're gonna live in harmony. We're not gonna hurt each other in this particular tile. We also add the addition of some other cards, and the plantations are slightly changed. So the game is really impacted in a lot of ways, and it really does change the gameplay. And for me, it's primarily a positive change. And I know that this may not be a positive change for fans of the original Guilds of London, but as someone who thought Guilds of London was an okay game, this expansion, I think, makes it better and very different. And we're going to get back into the studio now, and I'm going to give you exactly why I feel that way. So that is the Guilds of London. And this game has the wards with it now. And the wards, to me, changes this game in such a big way. It's just almost like they're different games. I will say this. There have been designers that have come out with 2 different games that are more similar than this one game with an expansion is. So the expansion on this isn't just a more stuff thing. It fundamentally changes the way how this game plays. And it fundamentally changes the way how the game feels. And it fundamentally changes your strategies. And to me, I'm going to back up here a little bit and say this. Guilds of London has a fan base that loves this game because it's so tense. It feels like you're walking down an alley and you're worried you're going to get mugged the whole time you're playing. Because those neutral liverymen could pop out at any point and mess up your plan. and make you lose your tile. And so it feels like you have to walk with a weapon in this game, and you keep a couple of those neutral guys hanging around by your area too, because you want to have like a kind of a Cold War and be ready to attack back when you get attacked. And there's attacking in this game. It's really attacking. And when you look at this game, if you looked at the back of this game or the cover of this game, you would never think this game is an attacky war game, but it feels like that. And so this seemingly symbol-laden Euro game that you would think would play like something like Newton, where it's like solitaire around a table, is not that at all. And some people absolutely love Guilds of London because of that. They absolutely love it. That they like that feeling of, I'm going to jump somebody when they're walking down the alley, but then I might get jumped myself, but that's okay. Like, some people love that. And so that big Pangea continent of tiles in the middle, where everyone's jumping into everyone's business and doing all the kinds of things, some people love that. And the game is so tight and tension-filled, but then also beyond that, it's so tight with resources and tight with your cards. You have these amazing cards in your hand, and you have these things that you want to make happen with these cards. But then you start figuring out, I need this benefit, so I've got to burn these cards that I was planning on using. And it feels like you can't do everything you want to do. And so Wards changes a lot of those things. So Wards, I think, makes the game into what I thought the game was going to be, which is this kind of more, maybe some player interaction, some bits of attacking, but really you can play it with your own strategy that you're trying to optimize yourself instead of hurt your opponents to win. And that's what I think Wards really does. It breaks that big continent up, makes you not have to worry about everyone around the table. You just worry about your guy on your left and right, and not even both of them at the same time. You have one ward that you're sharing with someone else, and another ward you're sharing with someone else. And it's weird. There's this weird tension now, too, it's like you don't want them to do real well, but you need their help. You need them to put live room in there to make that tile pop. So it's just this weird back and forth of like almost a symbiotic but hateful relationship that you have in these neutral wards. And so this game now has become something that isn't about trying to not get stabbed in a back alley, to use that analogy again, but it's more about trying to figure out how do I maybe almost negotiate that, you know what, I want to get second place there, and I'll let them get first, and that's okay, because I don't mind the cost on this to get second. It's going to be okay, and they need me to help make that tile break. And then they do the same for me kind of in these neutral tiles, but then also I've got this 100% my ward that I can say, all right, man, let's take a look here at my ward, and let's optimize this thing, and let's figure out how many of these cards to optimize it. And then beyond that, I don't have to burn my cards that I'm really counting on or needing for their special suits or abilities or whatever, because I can get coins now, and coins can be used to pay the cost for those special perks. So I think all those changes to a lot of Guilds of London fans are going to be bad. They're going to say, what? I don't feel that tension. I don't feel that. My blood pressure doesn't shoot up 10 points when I play this game. But at the same time, a lot of people like me who like a more solitaire, like a more just kind of, I'm doing my thing and I want to do it the best I can. People who like that board game experience are going to enjoy it better with Wards now, I think. And the game still has a touch of the mean, and it still is a little bit of, okay, I see he's got some neutrals over there. What's he planning on doing with those? When we go to negotiate, I don't know. I hope he's more concerned about that ward than my ward with him. So you had that thought there, but it's not the first thought in your mind. And the coins, like I said, they let you have some freedom that you didn't have before to really optimize your cards and have your hand size really not be a painful thing that you're constantly thinking about. So overall, I think the Wards of London adds to this game, and it makes it a way to play the game that feels better to me. I can understand why some people will not like this. I will say that right now. People who like Guilds of London for the things that I've said that this changes won't like it. They'll say, you've ruined this. What have you done? This scary tension that we have present in this game isn't there anymore. To me, I'm happy about that. So, depending on what kind of fan you are of this game, you're going to have variations in what you think about this. So, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you guys taking time to check out what I thought about this. But I give Wards an approval. I give it a thumbs up. I think it's a nice addition to Guilds of London. And I think when I play Guilds, I'm going to throw the Wards on the table too. So that's that, guys. Keep gaming, and I've been Joel. Check out our podcast, stuff like that. You know the drill. But anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.